Colonel, over the last few years, I know that you've done a lot of mortgage foreclosure defense.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on in that industry these days?
Well, unfortunately, as we go along and further into it, there are more and more appellate cases coming out, and unfortunately, it seems to me like the appellate courts are almost always ruling in favor of the banks and the mortgage companies and against the individuals, which I think is unfortunate. And it seems as though they bend over backwards to find ways to enter a judgment so that people end up losing their houses. And without much help, and the industry started off with the idea that they were going to work with people, help them modify, go through the financial situations, recognize the fact that the individuals and property owners did not cause this problem that came along with everybody. That problem was caused by the banks and the mortgage companies. That is, they inflated prices. They talked people into taking second mortgages. They talked people into refinancing. To quote unquote get half the money out of the house. A house they claim was worth $300,000, and then suddenly over 2 or 3 months' time is only worth $100,000, and then suddenly they, however, want you to pay all the money that was promised, and they don't want to work with you. Meanwhile, the government, of course, bailed them all out, so they're still in business and still healthy and still going. But the poor individuals who are in the house, they're kind of stuck, and it's been in defending them. You get a lot of I feel good about the fact that I've helped a lot of people. Number one, sometimes you can't help people. There's just the situation is that they are unhelpable, if you will, and that so you ease them out. And so instead of having a panic and having to leave in a month or two, you help them extend the process so that you can at least try the methods to modify and change the situation, get the principal reduced occasionally, get the interest rate reduced, get the term extended, go from 30 years to 40 years. But the whole end result oftentimes was a mortgage payment that used to be $1,800 is now $900, and so that it's affordable and they could stay in and you work those kind of things out. But mortgage companies oftentimes were not very helpful, and oftentimes too, you weren't actually dealing with a mortgage company. You were dealing with a servicing company, and oftentimes that servicing company would change. And so when in a couple of years ago, it was just oftentimes that the poor people would come in and they would have submitted their financial paperwork 3 or 4 times. The servicing company claims they didn't get it, and so your lawyers have to get involved. And they didn't charge them a lot of money. It does cost money, but it's not a lot of money, in my opinion. And by helping out and making sure you have records of delivering things and getting confirmations that they were delivered, you finally work through those kind of things. But you still had difficulty with the mortgage companies not helping people out like they say they would, and like the letters they would send out, the form letters would say they would. So it was difficult, and but I got a lot of satisfaction because I've helped a lot of people. And then another thing you do too, mortgage companies being kind of peculiar in my opinion. One thing you have to think about, when I start a case like that, when somebody comes in, I tell them, say, listen, the first thing you have to know is that the mortgage companies don't act rationally. They don't make any sense. They don't make any economic sense. They say they're going to help you, but in fact they will not. So you have to kind of force them to. But the bottom line is, whatever you think about, the first thing you have to think is they're not going to respond in a reasonable economic fashion. It's as though they don't care if you're losing your home, and they don't care that they're losing money. They will not work with you to make things better. So you have to, with that premise, you start off by defending the case. You get them, raise some issues with them that causes them to lose time. But then at the end of the day, and this is happening seemingly more and more, I mean, I have one right now that I've resolved. They've got a sale date 5 months away, which means they get to stay there 5 more months. And at the end of the day, when they move out, and they have to leave the house broom clean, which just means there's nothing in there. And of course, you can't trash it. You have to be careful with that the cabinets are still there and the sinks are still there. But at the end of the day, they're going to pay them $3,500. So not only have they been there now for 19 months, they're going to be there another 5 months, and then the bank's going to pay them $3,500. And as a lawyer sitting there talking to them, you say to yourself, why in the world would they do that? And the answer that I'd give them is, I don't know why they do that. I just know that in the short term, they'd been much better off to make a deal so that the defendants, the homeowners, could work it out so they could stay there. But they, for some reason or other, just will not do it. And so you just take advantage, if you will, of their stupidity, because that's what I seem to think it is. And you take advantage of it, and that's fine with me. And I really think from a citizen standpoint or a taxpayer standpoint, the real problem that comes about is the banks were bailed out by the government, and now they don't care because they don't have any skin in the game, like people like to say, and so they don't care. And since they don't care, they're not going to lose any money. They don't work with you, don't do anything, and then they end up paying you money for something they shouldn't be paying for, and it just doesn't make any sense.